Attention, this time we'll have the opening statement by the Borough Clerk.
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting as required by said act has been provided by contacting each council member, posting the scheduled meeting on the municipal bulletin board on the website, and emailed to the South Jersey Times and filed with the Borough Clerk on January 2nd, 2024.
Roll call.
Council President Turner. Councilwoman Armstead.
Here.
Councilman Detono. Councilman Holloway.
I heard from him. He's working.
Okay.
Tell just walked in.
As the record reflect, Councilman Detono has joined the group.
Right on time. Councilman Singleton.
Present.
Councilman Thomas.
Here.
Okay, at this time, those of you who are noticing this in orange, some brighter orange, some not so bright, we're we're recognizing and declaring that June 11th, and the first Friday in June is National Gun Violence and Awareness Day in the borough of Paulsboro, New Jersey, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence and declare that we as a country must do more to end this public health crisis. And I'll read the rest of it when we're inside. But for those of you who are here, that's why we are all in orange. So Councilwoman and all those who participated, we thank you, and thank you for your recognition of this serious issue. This time we'll have privilege of the floor for agenda items only.
Make a motion to open the floor to public.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
See no hands, close the floor to public.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, let's go through the, we're not gonna, as we stated before, we're gonna try to go through the, our agenda. If you have questions, we're not gonna pass anything out here. I'll pass it all out at the 7 o'clock meeting. Just as a reminder, the agenda sometimes can be tricky. Me and Elsie went over it a couple of times this week. You know, sometimes if somebody asks you a question you can't remember, so I think it's real important that we do try to, if you have questions, to review it and try to get a hold of us before if there's some things that need further escalation. At this time, let's go to page 2. We can do the approval of minutes. Any motion for that?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, communication. Letter from tax collector Mackenzie Kelly, informing mayor and council members of the 2024 tax revenue of the month of April and May. You see the number in front of you. Susan, are those numbers good?
They're very good, actually. We probably have the lowest number of delinquencies that we've had in a long time. Tax bills are going out, water bills are going out. Most people should have gotten them. The tax sale, which is for prior year taxes, will be in October. We don't have the exact date yet, but good numbers.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, we have a letter from Martha, who is here today, right?
Yes.
She would like just to review with the governing body a ministry that has been registered by the Department of Treasury, and that she is going to have some events at her house. And she would just like to give a little short presentation. You ready, Martha?
Yes, I am.
You can come up closer if you want to sit or stand. It's up to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Martha. So I have registered a ministry which in Spanish is Ministerio sobre los Valientes que van al cielo, which in English is translated as ministry, only the brave ones will reach heaven. The ministry is not a church. It's a ministry which is flexible. Anywhere that God says me to preach the word of God, I will be doing that. The only thing that I do in my home, I have a separate location inside my home where once every like I take a Saturday every 2 months, I do a women's retreat of fasting from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We have a conference, someone does preaching, and we give counseling. The thing that I'm gonna be doing is only once a year, which this August 24th, I will be doing an outreach service where I have an evangelist preaching in Spanish, but I have someone, pastor, translated in English for the community. I did go out to the community and I made letters, and I did recollect signatures, letting the community know what is going on, if they approve of what I'm gonna do, because there is gonna be a lot of cars out there, and we're gonna be, have speakers and things like that. It starts at 2:00, and I'm trying to finish before 7 p.m. But it's to preach the word of God, counsel people, let them know that there is someone out there to help. And I also have my associates in health and human services, my associates in counseling, going into my bachelor's, and I am here to help. I don't know if you guys know that on April 17th, before my first women's retreat, my house was the one that was gunned down with 9 bullets. And that is what I'm trying to stop, the violence. Because that room was my son's room. Only 1 bullet made it and the other 8 didn't. They were stuck in the wall. So my mission with this ministry is to stop the violence. Because someone is gonna get hurt, and there is not, I'm sorry, they can bring back a child. So,
Well, we thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go, any council first have questions?
I just have a couple questions.
yes.
For this event that you're having, does she need to file one of those emergency plans because it's a gathering of,
Well, that,
because it's a gathering of a lot of people?
Councilman, I was just going to suggest to the mayor, since you're going to have it at your house on Commerce,
Yes.
there may be a large,
Right here in West Adams.
oh, West Adams?
Yes.
Okay, maybe a large group of individuals and vehicles just to meet with the chief or the captain to make sure that is adequately noticed with the police department as well.
Okay.
so we'll make sure you see the chief, police chief, and you may need to see the fire chief, as he is the one that writes this APP plan that protects us, protects you, and you may not have to do it.
Okay.
If it's 4 or 5 cars, or it's gonna be 20 cars, all depends.
Okay.
All right, so that's, Councilwoman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I also wanted to let the council know, I have been talking to Ms. Judy McKenzie about a Stop the Violence Prevention program, possibly bringing it into the borough, into our school systems. So we are working on that note also, but I have to talk with her more about
Okay.
what the program is going to entail and all, and to maybe move forward on that also, to help stop the gun violence here in our town.
Thank you. Vernon, you'll notify the police chief and fire chief as well.
I will,
I appreciate that.
absolutely.
Are we looking at a certain date? Was that August 24th, Martha?
Say that again.
Was that August 24th? Is this going to be a specific date, or is this once a month?
No, the outreach service is only going to be once a year. So August 24th for this year is the date. For next year, I will send you an email for next year's.
Okay.
So that'll give us plenty enough time to, if you need to do that plan, to get that. Okay, our next one is a public property application from Brenda to rent the borough lot on Madison and Commerce Street. This is a property that we own. Brenda, is Brenda here? Brenda's not here? Okay, I don't know that we did this in the past. Susan?
We haven't done it in the past, but this is probably the first one we've had in years.
What's your recommendation?
Are we talking about renting the parking lot?
It's just gonna be a party, just.
There had to be some kind of application we have to do.
Well, she submitted to the clerk the application and fees for use of public property. So there was that general application. She still has to get insurance for it.
Right.
Is this just a grass lot or is it a paved lot?
No, it's a grass lot. Grass lot, right, Herm?
Yeah, it's one of the ones we had the for sale sign on.
Oh, okay.
It's across the street from your house, right?
Whose house?
The woman who's making the application.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So potentially, if we have torrential downpours, it could be inconvenient for her, and then also for public works after all the cars leave.
Right.
But barring rain,
But I don't know if this is a process that you want to open that door You know, there's,
I don't know. I mean, even though she has to get insurance, she would have to sign a waiver of liability, which, depending how written, could or could not stand up in court, so.
I would think that, I don't know how many people she's getting, but they could, I don't know if this is a good practice for parking, open park. Captain, you have a thought on that?
I think just in general, the fact that it's a grass lot, I know Eric just mentioned it is adjacent to the railroad tracks. Typically, we wouldn't allow longer-term parking or overnight parking or on a private grass lot. It's typically not allowed long-term, so I'm kind of with Susan where it's kind of like if you open a door to it, what do you get into?
If somebody dings a car of somebody else's and all that kind of stuff.
Parking on that
Yeah,
lot
so
previously?
it's a lot we're trying to sell to build a house.
It's just,
So it's,
yeah.
it's never been used as a parking lot. I
Correct.
mean, not only that, you're gonna be faced with like potential like damage to the property. You put 50 cars on this lot, it's probably not gonna be good for your grounds.
We'll vote on it out there, so the recommendation would be to deny.
There's a lot of concerns.
Is the street wide enough to just have that side of the street parking, since there's no houses that those cars would be
I
blocking?
don't know that it's wide enough. out there.
Not really.
No, okay.
So, you know, just like when we have other.
If you want to see the application, I had it if you want to see it. It's 30 people, I think.
So, I just,
The railroad consideration's a big one too, because we don't know, it's a really wide right of way through there. And you're, as public, or even if you're a contractor or the borough, you're not allowed to occupy that railroad right of way without approval, flagman, all kinds of stuff. And there's no way for us to clearly delineate for the people that would be using that lot exactly where that right of way ends,
Or control it or.
or control it.
Well, no
So if somebody
answer.
parks in the way, you know, there could be a serious issue.
Dad used to say, no's an answer, so that's sometimes, that's what we have to do, you know. All right, letter from Department of Community Affairs, to welcome the Borough of Paulsboro's participation in a state local cooperative housing inspection program. As it states in here, this will allow our inspectors to do multiple dwellings.
This is something we get every year.
Yes,
And up till last year, we always had the state inspector do it. But they have fallen by the wayside, so to speak. The one that we had got transferred to another place, so there is nobody inspecting right now. This doesn't even really cover the inspections. These are all for apartment buildings, et cetera, and they're on a schedule with the state. In other words, you don't do every one every year. What their inspector would do it, come and give us a bill. We would get 25% of what the amount was, and then the inspector himself would get the other amount. So I don't think we can say no to this at this point without them not being inspected. They just don't have the people to do it.
all right, any questions on that? Okay. The next one is an application for the use of the borough sports field. Mandy, as you know, is, or may not know, is a coach at the high school and a teacher. They would like to use the fields. I think it would be a good idea if this went back to the property committee, because I don't know, she used it last year.
Well, that's before we had the big fees on it.
Right.
So she applied in the spring, but never came to us for a fee or anything. She has the insurance, she has everything else. She doesn't need lights, so that's a charge, an additional charge we put on. She knows enough to stay off the football field for any of the practice stuff. But
What's the monthly fee?
it's $200 a day, isn't it?
It's 50 a day or
200 a
200 a month.
$200 a month, sorry.
Which is low, to be honest with you. I was looking at schools, some of them's $400 for 4 hours. So if the property committee wants to review this, or just approve it, it's approved, therefore you get the fee. Or does the property committee want to look at it, making adjustments with the fees?
Say make the adjustment with the fees.
Okay. So at this time, we'll send this back to the property committee.
Okay, but she's like ready to use it, isn't she?
Is it gonna interfere with softball and baseball? They got all-stars coming up, so.
What's that?
Is it gonna interfere with baseball and softball? They have all-star games coming up. Season's not over yet.
No, they would always be second fiddle to any of our
I'm
sports.
just making sure she knows that. I don't want her showing up there.
Yeah.
Now, our people, but I have no information from our people.
Who's our people? Baseball or softball, okay. So we can, do you want to approve it with conditions that we're reviewing it? Council President? What's your,
Chairman, do you advise?
we'll do it out there, I'm
We
just,
can meet and talk about it as a committee, you know, because I haven't seen this application, I don't know.
I don't think she paid last year any
What's in
money.
this.
Well, no, because we didn't have the fees on it for last year.
We didn't?
Yeah, I don't think-
Until we had the brouhahas with the play days and everything, we really didn't put high fees on people from our community. So we didn't put any fees on for our community.
Okay.
We just put outsiders' fees on.
And do we know what the duration of this is? It says Mondays through Thursdays, but starting now until
Oh, well-
August, now until October.
I think it's, and it's not even written on the application. I believe she said it was, June, well, we're already into June, it's definitely July and August.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I think next time, if they don't have the dates on there, it doesn't even get on the agenda, it's too much. We gotta ask all these questions today, they gotta have, and they should probably meet with, when it's that big, meet with, so you'll meet with Mandy, we'll look at the.
Should it go to the property committee, are you
Well,
saying
with this,
first?
with this time now, once we get, I don't think we all have to have a clear understanding of the fees, you know, and it should be on, when I was looking at other places, everything was spelled out. You just click the button, you want this, and everything was spelled right out. So when you got the application, there was no questions. It was all dates, times, here's, we had the other group.
Did you put the fields on this time?
You okay with that, Council?
Major fields.
Council President?
Major
Yes.
league fields.
Okay. Okay, let's go to ordinances on first reading. 14.24. We had to, we had to
Do you want this?
update our towing ordinance. It hadn't been adopted in a while, so we have a new one that we're gonna adopt. Do you know the fees right off the hand, Captain, on that?
I do not, other than the fact that I know that when the chief met with the our two contracted tow companies, it had not been reviewed in a while, and it was somewhat low compared to what the going rates are now.
That's what he mentioned to me too, so. And that's when if somebody gets a car accident or somebody, we have to tow a vehicle or whatever it is, all that has to be in the ordinance. Any questions? Ordinance amending Borough Code 59B.
I think. Council President, that's the one we're gonna pull?
That's the one, yeah, we want to pull until the 25th.
You got it.
Yes, we'll just introduce it then.
So that's 1524 we're pulling out.
Yes.
Between now and then, can we just have a synopsis of what the scope of those changes are?
Well, I think you can meet which one? The ones you just pulled?
It says here that it's amending various sections and
That was
adding
pulled.
blah, blah, blah. Okay, right. But
Yeah.
between now and,
Oh, yep.
Yes.
Can I ask the council their opinion of how you would like this as they are introduced? You have the title, but like Councilman Thomas was asking and we were talking, do you want the old? Like, would it be feasible to have the old portion of it that you're amending to this new? Or how would you want more information and where do you want it?
let's you and I talk offline about that. I've got some ideas
Okay.
just on how we can beef up the agenda a little bit.
I know it's like very minimal information.
Just having a
on the
little
agenda.
informational blurb underneath, all of the, all caps.
That's why it's important to review the agenda. Not saying, because it was, so we can have, and the code, when the codes meet, don't be afraid to call another department, hey, what's going on with this? Ordinance 16.24, entitled Streets and Sidewalks, adding article, probation of grills. This is Council President, you did work on this, you want to give a little brief update?
Yeah, this one was, You know, we're trying to avoid the impeding side, people walking up and down the sidewalk, grilling out on the sidewalk in front of your house, even if you may not have a backyard, but you can't.
You can't do the backyard. Only public easements and right of ways.
Yeah, I'm just saying, my point is, for the people that think they don't have a backyard, they just wanna go out in front of their house on the sidewalk, and we can't allow that. So that's what this ordinance is going to, disrupt quality of life. Here.
And the committee talked about that when you had a code with George and everything, right?
Yes, we did, and I think that, this is gonna definitely improve our quality of life, starting, right now, right on through the summer, and going forward.
It's actually based on the ordinances that Philadelphia and New York have that prohibits grilling, fire pits, gas grills, even motorized vehicles on them. You can't impede the right-of-way easement or some public thoroughfare with stuff just left there.
Good news, it don't happen often, but it does happen. Yes, Councilman.
I have a question to ask. I've been complaining about the gentleman on Roosevelt Avenue who parks his white truck on the sidewalk every single night. And nothing has been done about it. And I just heard Susan said nothing should impede the traffic.
That was middle of the block.
Down toward, not too far from the office, coming back towards,
Delaware?
the fields.
Okay,
Going towards the fields.
Mhm.
Okay.
so
He's
captains.
not, he's
Okay,
not in the
well-
middle, but
Let me just, there's a point of clarification here.
Yeah.
Because this ordinance itself is basically under property maintenance. It makes things prohibited, and you get a property maintenance ticket for it. What I think you're talking about may be a criminal violation that you can't park on sidewalks as well. This will give you a civil violation. I think,
Well, it's two separate matters,
yes.
but nevertheless, the captain, would you look into that?
Will do. I believe it's been addressed,
I have a picture of the vehicle on the side.
yeah, absolutely. I believe it's been addressed in the past. We'll go back out and look at it, but
Okay.
specifically on the sidewalk, not on the property.
Specifically on the
Right
side.
on the point there, close to the schools, is that what you're talking about? On
You
Delaware?
know where the office is on Delaware
Yes.
Street? Roosevelt Street is
Yeah.
right there.
Uh-huh.
He's a little bit back.
Well, even if you're parked in your driveway and you're blocking a pedestrian right-of-way, this ordinance addresses that.
Okay.
It's more of a civil violation, not a criminal.
Right.
And are these penalties listed somewhere? Because I know like in code, we discussed first time.
Yes, there, it's down in the bottom, and it was actually, it's $100, it's a warning, I think, for the first of,
The ordinance
The
itself.
book, yeah, it's not on the agenda.
Okay, so we don't have the ordinance.
No. But it's $100, it doesn't say here.
Here it is, here, Chair. Isn't this it? Yeah. Look at the copy of this one here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Good point, Councilwoman Armistead. Ordinance 1724, ordinance to further amend and supplement salary ordinance of the Borough of Paulsboro. We did a reading the last time, this is the first reading.
right. This addresses the recent settlement of the white-collar ASME contract. So it really addresses those people there that are in that union.
Okay, and let's go to the resolutions and transfers. That's all our bills. Anybody have any questions on that?
I'd like, Mr. Mayor, if I can, going back to 17.24,
Okay.
the salary adjustment. I don't know what that is, like, I don't know what I'm approving, like, I understand that there's a change in the contract, they settled, but I don't know what that specifically entails. So,
It's the white-collar workers, okay? So
Yes.
it would include the finance clerk, the code clerk. It's not blue collar, it's not water and sewer, and they broke apart. Before AFSCME was all together.
yes,
So this is just basically the people up in the
yeah,
office.
I understand that,
What's
but
the
my,
amendment?
yeah, what's the change, what's the raise?
You went over the raise, didn't you, Susan, their percentage?
Right.
whatever it was, 2%, then they got this.
It was 2.25% plus a 25%, 25 cent an hour raise.
Okay, so we don't see those actual numbers. From salary A, the 2%, now it's salary B. We don't see that.
No.
And I'm just asking.
No, this body passed the MOU, which showed what the raises were.
Okay. But just
So
not
this
detailed.
embodies what that contract was.
Okay.
It wouldn't be, that was the March meeting, or this is June, April?
It was a while.
Yeah. And you went over it, right?
It was April, I think.
April? Okay. You didn't have real detail, but you did go over what it was, I
We
remember.
went over the, yeah.
Yeah. You didn't say, this person's making this here, but it wasn't that detailed. Your contract isn't like the teacher's contract, with list names and things like that.
No, it names positions and.
Position. Okay, what's next? Consent agenda, cancellation of certain balances on water and sewer.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. Duplicate payment and an overpayment tax service. That was money people will be getting back, right, Ms. Tedeschi? Number 12324.
Yeah, refunds or anything that was maybe overpaid, cancellations of certain balances, makes an adjustment. Any other questions?
And sometimes you could actually apply that money, you don't have to pay it, that goes to their
It can go-
credit.
it can-
And some people want the money back.
Correct.
$693, I can see why.
1881.
Borough Paulsboro self-examination of the budget, local finance board, and NJAC. That's a standard procedure every year, right, Susan?
Correct.
Okay. Borough Paulsboro read the budget by title only.
Actually, I'm sorry, yeah, you went kind of quick there. 125-24, overpayments and delinquent amounts less than $10. What kind of dollar figures are we looking at on both of those categories, just ballpark?
For 125?
Yes.
125, yes.
125, you're allowed statutorily to address anything less than $10.
Sure.
So you don't have to, like,
Do you want a
say,
list
you
of
want $2 back?
I mean, are we talking about, is this a total
It's-
of like $30 or is it like $30,000? And I know it's somewhere between
No.
those two. I'm just curious where between
It's
those
usually
two.
less-
The resolution just lets you do it if it happens, so that
It's
you don't
usually
have to
less
keep
than $100.
asking permission.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And you're
And
up
it's
to
actually something the
127.24.
audit
I didn't
should
actually understand what
recommend.
that one was. Can you,
Resolution of the Borough of Paulsboro to read the 24 budget by title only. Susan?
That's the same thing.
what does that mean?
Every year.
Yeah. It's something that you do every year. So for the first reading, you can introduce the budget by title only. So that's what this is. And that's something that our auditor said that we had to do. The self-exam is something that we do every third year, because there are 554 municipalities now. 2/3 of them get to do self-exam. So if you are able to check off that you don't have tax collection rate below 90%, there's a list of about 12 things. You're allowed to do self-exam, but you have to do a resolution saying that you meet all the criteria. Self-exam means they're going to take your word for it, it's okay. So every third year, you have to do the exam, and then local government services looks at your budget page by page.
Any more questions?
You still have a question, I can see it.
I just, I heard a lot of words that I don't, here's what I don't understand. Resolution of the Borough of Paulsboro to read the 2024 budget by title only. I know what all of those words individually mean. I don't know what they mean strung together like that. What's it actually saying?
It means you can put it on your agenda, which we did,
Okay?
by title only. You don't
Versus
have
listing
to
out the
pub-
entire
You don't have to
budget.
publish the whole budget.
Got it.
Like you used to.
You'd have to go through like a major
Understood. Okay.
presentation
Got it.
of your budget. Or instead of doing that, you can say the budget's available and we're just introducing it by title.
Like the budget,
Okay.
the budget packet we got at the
Yeah.
last meeting.
It's a shortcut, that's all.
Okay, 128.24 is
Okay.
for towing services that we talked about. Of course, they have to be advertised in the paper and the website, so it's all done. Everything we do is legal. And we have a Paulsboro Day raffle, a raffle for Guardian Angels. And then number 13, resolutions not on consent agenda. Now, when we do the club and liquor license, what I'm gonna ask before we start, if anybody has a conflict, like I'm a member of the Sunset League and the Sportsman's Club, I'm gonna say abstain from Sportsman's Club and the Sunset League. And so if somebody has, I know some of you do because you're members, we'll do that beforehand, before we approve it. Yeah, you'll have, what's it called, doctrine of necessity?
Oh, on passage, yeah, you'll be fine.
Can, while we're in here and it's a little bit less confusing, can you just go around and say what clubs or associations you have with these liquor licenses, and then
Councilman Daytona.
Just the Sons of Italy.
some? All right, hold on.
Oh, Sons.
Just the Sons.
Sons. Okay.
Councilman Thomas,
Sons and the Sportsman's.
Councilman Singleton,
Sons and Sportsmen's.
well, I won't have to vote. Council President,
None.
Me neither.
I occasionally part-time at Bourbon's and, I'm sorry, not Bourbon's Brews, at Asteria.
Not where you. It's not where you personally go. It's just if you're a member.
Oh, no,
of that.
sometimes I'm behind the bar there.
Oh, you are. Oh, you work there. I'm sorry.
occasionally.
I have a lot of talent.
Wow, you do. You're busy.
Are you
All right,
like
hold
the
on.
bartender and
Hold on,
cocktail?
give me a little
Roll
bit.
the bottles
Eric.
around?
Singleton, Sons, Sportsman's, and Stereo.
Sure, it's for your amps.
So you're probably gonna need the, Michael?
No, that shit's no.
Yeah.
You're fine with those.
It should be good, yeah. And the mayor's not
And
here
we,
yet.
are you all done?
Yes.
Now, we also have what they call free pocket licenses. So we have the Riverside Inn. I'll see.
Well, that's on here is at 140.24, the last one on page 8. That's a new pocket license that's going to happen this year. Going from the Riverside Inn to just Kenneth Haynes' personal pocket license.
So that's one, that means that they have the license, but they're not,
There's no-
they're not opening and running the bar.
There's not a place for it.
Right, and then the second and third one.
Is Madeira House, which is the old 1048 Club,
That was probably
and
12,
that's been
15 years ago.
pocketed about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And the other one is PPN, which was the old Rockin' Stone, which is the Bourbons and Brews now, but that, he had a pocket license for Rockin' Stone, which is now a pocket license. The license that's there now is the old Billing Sports Spirits,
Yeah.
which is run by Laura Gilmore, and she brought her license from the old
Benny
Borelli's
Borrell.
bar, yeah. Brought it from there over to Bourbons and Brews and is now leasing the building to use Billing Sports Spirits liquor license there. So the old PPN they call it, investments is the old Rockin' Stone liquor license, and that is in a pocket license as
And
of
Frank's
now.
Pub's a pocket license as well, right?
No.
That he's active?
So Frank's Pub has now been transferred to Paulie's Bar and Grill. As of last year, going into this year, they renewed under Paulie's Bar and Grill. And they will be working on that with a construction permit to get things, it's gutted right now, but to get things back in order and to get it up and going as a bar.
So they have a license.
So they have a
Yes.
license. So they purchase or the transfer went from person to person transfer from Frank's Pub, Bad Theo's, to Paulie's Bar and Grill.
And I'm sorry to ask you to repeat this. What is a pocket license?
It's just an inactive license that does not have an establishment
Okay.
to,
So there's,
to run it.
there's two in town now.
Great.
Now there's three. And there's also a pocket license or an inactive license for George Patton, which is a club license, which was the old VFW.
So there's always a potential that they could come back,
Or they could sell them, right?
or they could sell it.
Or you could sell it. Now, the VFW, so the state right now is very there's a couple different laws that have happened recently that are pushing people with these pocket license to use them, not just sit on them. Either use it or sell it kind of thing. So I don't know what it is, exactly, but that's the push.
Do you rather have ratables and nice,
So Madeira House, just so you know, is looking to find a place in Paulsboro to operate his liquor license. So if anybody on the property committee or any committees or know of any, but they don't want to pay $1 million
pennies on the
at CVS or Rite Aid building, and they do not. Nobody's very interested in Ferrelli's old bar or Benny's on the Grill. Benny's on
Okay,
the
so
Grill.
I just wanted to make sure everyone understood about these pocket licenses in case anybody asked you. It can be complicated. Let's go to number 14.
Actually, it
Yeah.
looks as though 132 and 134 are the same thing.
So that's that.
Does Haney's actually have two separate licenses?
Resolution, restricted license. These,
Good catch.
well, we're gonna pass it twice, make sure we,
There's a free liquor license right there.
yeah, there you go.
All right.
Well, Tom, listen, you got one approved and one denied, right? All right, thank you for that, Councilman. Ordinance is on second and public reading. This is, now I went by there today, and I don't know how so many people with so many trash cans close and just throw trash on the ground. It's disappointing that people would just be so sloppy and sad. And that, but I did say the business has been doing a little bit more sweeping than I have in the past. So this is, of course, is the designated parking that we're gonna vote on for the second reading.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on,
Yes,
I thought the second reading for the handicap spot was supposed to be on the agenda for this evening.
I think we discussed that. That's never been done by ordinance, right?
we're just gonna get it done now. We did it, made approval, right?
What's that?
But they
We
said
gave
when I
approval.
was-
Right.
You think, when can,
So I know the chief
you gotta
is
get that
up on
signed.
that because he went out and measured it and everything.
I believe so, yeah.
So we don't need a second reading then? Everything.
It's not an ordinance
Okay, so everything
because
just
it's
go on.
temporary for a year.
And then it's gonna be renewed. Lauren, could you follow up with Herman, who's here, and the chief and the captain, that it's been a couple months, every time I go to work, I gotta dodge Mrs. Pierce.
And to let you know, she did fall not too long
She did,
ago.
yeah, I know, I
And had to
did.
get 7 staples in her head.
Oh, my.
So if we could take care of it, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman, for follow-up. Okay, ordinance, rescinding ordinance 7.24, block 39601.
Yeah, sure. So Mayor, so this is second reading of the sale of 14 Capitol Street. The gentleman who is purchasing this particular property, actually properties, recently closed at 16 Capitol. So the property will be owned by the same entity. They're planning on rehabbing it and I believe renting it, but that remains to be seen. So this was the ordinance that we had discussed as to why there wasn't a restriction on owner occupancy. That's a particular property. Sale price is 52.5, but it doesn't come with the owner occupancy restriction. Doesn't mean it won't be owner occupied at some point, but no restriction.
Okay. The next, any questions?
Is that in violation of this rule we have about selling properties to non-owners?
No, because that restriction typically comes about through a redevelopment agreement with a particular property owner or developer, and those agreements are subject to whatever the terms are. So there's no hard and fast rule.
I know
or
you and I exchanged emails on this
ordinance.
topic.
Sure.
Is that gonna come back and bite us on the ass at some point?
I don't.
Can I say ass?
You kind of said this whatever you want, but
You did.
no,
I'm writing it in the record.
because the agreements are
You got that in
generally
a while, we did, yeah, a couple weeks ago.
property specific, developer specific, it depends on finances and numbers and contributions and where things are coming, everything is unique. So, you know, like I said, I think in our conversations, this particular situation where it's a duplex and the same owner of the property next door is also buying this one for a considerable increase in price. But you have to take all that into consideration, that if there's a like scenario where that happens, and you want to enforce the owner occupancy on that one versus this one, you have to probably look at it closely to make sure that, you know, you're not gonna step on somebody's toes and trying to not have apples to apples, but the likelihood of this particular scenario presenting itself again, I would say is slim to none.
Okay, so short version is lawyer says it's okay.
Correct.
Okay.
She said that last council meeting when we went over last council meeting,
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
lawyer advises that it's okay.
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 Yes.
Ordinance 11.24, Borough of Paulsboro, Chapter 6A cannabis, to correct the inconsistency. You want to go over
Sure,
this,
so
Mike?
so this
Over that,
is,
please.
yeah, so this is the second reading on the cannabis ordinance. It's correcting some language that was inadvertently left into the statute. So the borough has authorized all 6 classes of cannabis to exist in the manufacturing district of the borough, and also on block 124, lot 2, if my memory serves me correctly. All of the classes are permitted there. When we adopted a comprehensive statute addressing how you get a letter of support, where you're allowed to operate, how you're allowed to operate, what penalties are if you don't operate in certain forms, how to do a local license. In the local license section, it says that you cannot get a local retail license. And that contradicts all the other ordinances that say that you're allowed to have it in certain areas, so we're just deleting that line. That's it.
Any questions?
So are we saying that we're gonna allow cannabis in the borough? Is that what this is
Well,
saying?
we've already said that, like, it's already been permitted in the manufacturing district and in,
But I thought we said just if they wanted to, not retail, like say, people could go walk in and get it. I thought we said that if they wanted to put a distribution center, that that's what would happen.
so moons ago, I guess a couple of years ago already, the borough adopted an ordinance allowing every class of cannabis in the manufacturing district. A couple months after that, the town approved an ordinance amending that to say, in addition to the manufacturing district, there was one particular parcel on Lodge Avenue that would be allowed to have any of those classes of licenses. And then, since that time, that's the only approvals that have been given as far as kind of zoning, not under redevelopment, but allowing those uses. Towns are allowed to have local licenses. You have to get a state license in order to operate cannabis. Those are the different classes of licenses you get. The Cannabis Regulatory Commission allowed towns to also have a local license. So we can locally license people with certain rules. When we adopted that statute to say, here's our local licenses, we inadvertently left in a line that said you cannot get a retail license, even though it's allowed. So we're just taking that out to make it consistent with everything else that we've adopted.
Councilwoman, we've had some interest in a building on Broad Street.
I remember that.
That building is since off the market, there's something else in
Yes.
there now. We've had about the, I call it the taxi cab service, but that sort of, I know we got a call about doing something on exit 18. One thing I've noticed, and I took Vern to a meeting, we go to these meetings, 2 meetings last week about redevelopment, banks. You know, people, a lot of talking, a lot of exchanging. We had one guy say, yeah, I'm ready to do business here. I need 400 acres. I says, we ain't
That's
got
pretty
400
much Paulsboro.
Yeah, we don't have 400 acres. So But it is, we should get to these meetings, get your name out there and build some contacts, but the process is slow. Would anybody object to Eric doing his engineer's report in here instead of out there? Since we have some time. This way he's still recovering from his ankle. All right.
Thank you, Mayor. I got a few items on the agenda. First one is partial payment number 2 for the sinkholes. Primarily, it's for the remaining restoration out there. So you asked me earlier this week about the barrels and stuff like that. Is everything done? So I took a drive around and I did note that there were a couple barrels out there. They don't need to be there.
One on Manchman, then there was a cone on Manchman. I don't know if somebody just stuck a cone out there.
I don't know about the cone. I know the barrel's ours, Paulsboro's. So Herman and I have talked about it. That barrel can come.
I'm going to get an award once you get rid of that barrel.
I mean, everything's done. It's paved all around that. Everything's complete at that location. There is some of the punch list work that needs to be done, including some of the striping restoration. So some of the intersections, the stop bar might not be all the way across the street because they cut it out when they restored the paving. So those are going to come back when the contractor comes back to do the striping. They still have to do the manhole. We've been working with them on the submittal for the manhole at Spruce and Adams. Herman put a plate over it so to stabilize that location. And I've been working with both Harry Llewellyn, with the Borough Water and Sewer Department, and with the contractor to coordinate the manhole replacement. So that's that one. That's a payment in the amount of $74,330.55. Next one on the agenda is change order number 1. So this actually incorporates the manhole that we approved at the last meeting. So this $56,000 and change includes $47,600 for that manhole, plus some other minor work that needed to be done. Some of that actually, I think all of that work had to do with the storm sewer restoration on Nassau Avenue next to where the old water tower used to be. So one of the inlets was not in a situation that we could just simply restore it. We had to reconstruct it. And then on the downstream end, the pipe was falling apart and we couldn't connect up to it, so we had to extend our work a little bit farther until we got to a point where we could actually connect up to that pipe. So that's what those are for. And then the last one that I have as an action item is something that we discussed at the last meeting. It's the West Buck Street project. And in my report, I've included what the overall costs anticipated for the project, in addition to our proposal for that work. So the proposal is $94,475 for the survey, design, bidding, and construction phase services for that project. And that is for paving between Penn Line Road and York Avenue.
And when does that application have to be in? Or it's been in, what?
We have the money for that one. So we have to.
You have some of the money for that one, right?
I'm talking about we have the grant for that one. That's what I mean.
Right.
Yes.
But we don't have the money.
So that's CFO, work. I don't get involved in that side of it. But yes, that money needs to be set aside for it so that we could eventually go out to bid. If the money is available for us to proceed with the design, I'd advise that we start that this summer. I'm not asking to start this at this meeting if you're not ready to approve it. But I think it would be advisable to approve this in July so that we can get going on the project and submit it to DOT in the time frame necessary to get approvals to go out to bid, and then get a contract awarded for the construction. Because we do have a finite time frame for that.
This is one of the things that was supposed to be discussed at yesterday's Public Works meeting.
Councilman Holloway
And
got called
Councilman
in
Holloway.
work yesterday, or had to stay.
So I would ask to delay it at least till the June 25th meeting, or
Okay. So will you get, will contact, Councilman Holloway got called in for overtime. I don't say got called, couldn't leave, and he did have a meeting scheduled. Yesterday was canceled, so we'll ask him to, who's on that committee?
I'm hearing about that meeting for the first time now.
Okay, who's the third person?
It's for public what?
Yeah.
Public Works is Mr.
It's
Latino.
me.
Okay, so, Vern will get a hold of Ted and Susan. You know, spread the
Thanks.
wealth around, Susan.
Thanks.
You know, and listen, we
I
had
got the
Vern
money.
on this second week, and I don't know how, in all fairness, Susan did it, because she's helping Vern still, and she's helping Colleen. But it was, I'm so glad that we split the jobs, because I think it's gonna benefit us tremendous to be able to follow up with
I
some
just-
of our projects.
I'm not trying to put it off forever,
No,
but I know the property committee, not property, Public Works Committee was gonna discuss it, because we definitely has to discuss, we have a grant, but it's not even 3/4
So
of
what
the money
happens-
we need.
right, because
So we will have to go out and bond for this.
Right. So we get so much for the grant, but we have to pay other,
Right,
pay,
because that only pays construction, and it doesn't pay the full construction.
okay. And that's always good to share, because sometimes you do get grants and we still have to put money out of our pocket. Any update with, the water superintendent?
No,
I defer to Susan.
no.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the engineer? Go ahead, Councilman.
Not for the engineer.
Okay.
I'll wait. Not for the engineer, it's something else.
Mr. Mayor, I did have one more thing that you had asked me about before. You had asked me about the situation with the water towers. So, I have some photos that you can pass around. You know, most people have driven past it recently and know that it's got mildew. Both tanks have mildew on the outside of it. That's what that is. It's not paint failures. But what DEP requires is that towns or owners of water distribution tanks, they require them to inspect them on a periodic basis. We haven't inspected ours in a while. So what I'm going to do is I'll provide you with a proposal for inspecting both of these tanks, and then we will put together recommendations for what we think need to be done. So the spheroid tank, the one that looks like a golf ball and tee, that one was built in 2012. And typically, right around now, you would start thinking about when the tank would need to be overcoated. So you usually don't want to wait until the tanks are showing rust and things like that before you decide to paint them, because it's a lot more expensive. You really have to fully blast off all the paint, all the rust and everything before you can put any paint down on it. When it's still in decent condition, that's, you know, you can get more life out of your paint jobs by overcoating it. So that's what I anticipate we would want to do for the elevated tank. And then the standpipe, the one that just looks like a column, that one was repainted in 2017, so more recently. And I think that one can probably just be power washed, and it'll look pretty sharp when it's completed. So,
Is everybody in favor of that?
but we'll get you a proposal for inspection of those tanks.
Thank you, Susan.
Well, we know it's gonna cost money, but, excuse me, I'm out.
No, if you have to do it, you have to do it.
Yeah.
I get it, but you gotta get a plan in
We don't
place.
want mildew getting through the cracks.
That's another thing you hear a lot about.
Yes.
Action plan.
And one of the things we're going to talk about at the Public Works meeting that we didn't hold was what roads we're going to, or what road we will choose for this year's municipal aid application to DOT. So I got a few suggestions from both Herman and Mr. Holloway, And I put together a small email to Ted that you could share with the Public Works Committee, and then we could take a look at those together as a group.
Good, that's good.
We do need to do that shortly, though,
Councilman,
because we have to make that application
Yes.
at the end of this month.
Yes, I have a message from Miss Mary Harris, and we all know who she is. For the Seniors Club, they were supposed to fix the lighting or put a light out there or something for the club, and it
I don't know
hasn't
where
been done
Herman's
yet.
at, so
On
we,
the side?
On the side, and I think something on the other side or in the front, she said. And it still hasn't been done yet.
I can't see.
He's in,
You recall something about that, Susan, don't you? That we did something out there on the side?
last council meeting was about cameras.
Yeah, you put light up.
about a
There was a camera, but she also
They need
has been
lighting because the
concerned about the
camera,
lighting.
I don't think the camera can see that well if there's not a light out there.
We'll have Vern follow up with Herman. I just wanted to thank the departments because I know today Council President was in, we were meeting with Vern and Susan. Council President and her committee's been meeting, and Bobby's here, D'Angelo's here as well, about what can we do to address some of these problems. And what we're gonna need as a group to authorize, and I say Mike because he's the lawyer, that George is sort of hitting a brick wall. He's going there and saying, well, the judge can't do this, it can't. So we have to think outside the box and what we can do, whether we have to change our ordinance, whether we have to, because Broad Street has some real eyesores, so the committee, when they could, get with Vern, the committee, Mike, and see what we can do to, address these issues that have been difficult. The property committee has done an excellent job of listing 10 properties that are now for sale. We talked about it. Anybody can put a bid in. You get a hold of George, you get a hold of Mike, and there's certain conditions. One of the issues that we're having, we've sold some properties to people and they haven't made their timeline. So that's what we're dealing with on 701 Billings Avenue. We have two people, one's here, one's there. We want to get the properties done. That's the most important thing, is that we don't want them sitting on them, which is happening. And we're trying to emphasize that we've got to get them sold. I don't know if we had any bites on our new properties. Ted has met with his committee, with Public Works, because there was some concerns of some, I would say, rumors and information being spread about people stopping at Wawa and Heritages, and so I think they cleared that up. Also, a couple weeks ago, there was a community cleanup on Spruce Street. I think it was a nice idea. They didn't get as many volunteers out as Herman had said, and Susan, that we just can't pick up when these kind of projects happen. Am I right, Susan? And you want to tell them why we can't pick it up?
With what, the bamboo
Yeah, the bamboo.
or anything? I mean, that's
Let's start with the bamboo.
because it doesn't fit within the parameters. They have to take it over to, we start picking up one, we're gonna be picking up everything. We gave them the options of where to take it, where not to take it. I think at one point it was dumped in the middle of the street in order for us to pick it up. So they were told to put it back in the yard. And I understand people's good intentions, but you can't just go around and do this and expect the municipality to go and basically sweep up after you. So,
We also had a request for us to pick up a couch that was on private property. And this is areas that is concerning because we can't break laws to do things. But what we can do is you can get a hold of Vern and Susan, and George can go out there and be aggressive, which he has been lately. But I know with Councilman Armistead's house, right near, there's a bus and a bunch of vehicles that seem like they've been there a long time, right, Council?
Yes, they
So there's some eyesores, and I know the process can be slow, but we got to figure a way to
And they finally cut the grass.
They finally
Mayor,
cut
can I,
that.
can I give a
Yes.
report real quick?
Yeah, give a report. Oh, sure.
Okay, sorry. All right, so, I have on here a resolution. This is something that we actually completed in October. Michael wrote a letter to the GIF, so we were in compliance with the GIF. I forgot to put the resolution on, so this is the resolution for the personnel policy. Every 2 years, the mail comes out with an amendment to the personnel policies. The amendment for the last year was for breastfeeding and what accommodations you had to make for breastfeeding women employees. And the second one, which is something that I'm working with Vern on, is CDL people have to be drug and alcohol tested.
What kind of people?
Commercial drivers.
CDL?
Bus drivers.
Don't worry, John.
Bus drivers.
Just CDL people have to be
She said people.
tested. You have to give them notice first, but that's the crux of the change that the mail made. So I'm putting a resolution on so we can officially adopt it. It was something brought to our attention by the auditor. So I said I would correct it tonight. The second resolution I want to put on is for the elevation of Elsie Tedeschi from acting clerk to clerk.
It's not on here, right?
It's not on here. I just found out this afternoon. So we wanted to put her in place with her RMC. Congratulations.
Do we all get a copy of your diploma? Just to.
Sure, you can hang it in your office.
Yeah. She'll have it up on her wall.
Thank you.
After payment of the fee.
All right, so
of
we're
course.
gonna make that resolution 132.24 to make up for the one that was double, that Councilman, make up for my mistake on that one.
So you're gonna be in amongst the liquor licenses.
Yeah.
32.
Oh, that's true, I will
And the
be.
last thing I have on my report
424, they were the same.
is good news. We got grant for the illegal dumping. We're gonna get 2 cameras.
Okay.
We got it.
We got it. So, we have to send 2 people to school. I volunteer Herman and and somebody from the police department for the cameras. The DEP requires you to send people to school and to put up the cameras yourself, and we know where one is going. We have to look at where the other one's going. So, that's something that Herman can
How much
probably.
was the grant for, Susan?
What's that?
How
The
much
grant is for cameras for,
No, how much?
it's for the cameras themselves. It's not money.
Oh, you get the cameras.
Yeah,
okay.
you get the cameras.
I'd also like to recognize Councilman Armstead. Me and Councilwoman met with the police chief a couple weeks ago, Karen?
Yes, it was
Council.
a couple weeks
And
ago.
talked about some situations that were going on in town, and got a couple of people leaving. We hired, we're gonna hire a new police officer and another down the road, so we're gonna have other meetings and try to look at what's going on with, we're having people leave our department for a variety of reasons, and we're gonna try to put a game plan that we think may be able to sustain people working in this community. Is that it, Councilor Sid? Would
Our
you say
police
that's how it works?
officers, in specifically, we're talking about them.
Anything I missed?
Not really. We
Anything
can
you
go
wanna
other
add?
things with public safety also, but I'll speak about that in a minute.
Okay. So we're gonna,
Mayor, you said you had a question about the lights for Herman. There was a question.
oh,
Yeah,
down
the
to senior
senior
citizens.
Ms. Mary said the lights haven't been put up yet,
The lights are
that,
gone.
that she
The
asked.
camera, you mean?
Not the camera, she
I
wants
thought we
lights.
fixed the light.
The lights are fixed.
She said lights, that's all I know, she said, she'll be
Lights
here
are fixed. I
tonight.
let her wait no cameras, but I'm waiting on the salesman to meet up with you.
Okay,
The lights are gone.
When you ride by tonight, when you leave, Karen, see if you ride
take a
by, see if
ride.
you see a light on.
yes.
So we'll follow up. Anything before we go in there? So we're allowed, it's okay that Eric leaves since he gave his report, all the council? Yes, Captain.
In terms of the public safety report, we just found out within an hour of me coming up here that Michael Scambia has accepted a conditional offer with Woolwich. So we will be withdrawing. So I can help shorten the meeting.
Okay.
If you'd like to put the other portion, the other memo with that, we can can still,
Maybe I'll take
spend it
his,
out there.
I'll take his resolution number instead of the.
There you go.
Okay, can I have a motion for adjournment? Okay, let's go out to the 7 o'clock special.